Muhammad Iqbal, often referred to as Allama Iqbal, was a renowned Pakistani philosopher, poet, and thinker who left an indelible mark on the intellectual and cultural landscape of the Indian subcontinent. Born on November 9, 1877 in Sialkot, which is now in Pakistan, Iqbal's life and work were marked by a profound commitment to the betterment of his people and a deep exploration of philosophical and spiritual themes. Iqbal's early education was steeped in traditional Islamic studies, but he soon ventured into the Western educational system. He earned degrees in philosophy from universities in Lahore, Cambridge, and Munich. His exposure to both Eastern and Western thoughts profoundly influenced his intellectual development. Iqbal's poetry played a pivotal role in awakening the dormant spirit of the Muslim community in British India during the early 20th century. He used his verses to advocate for self-realization, unity, and empowerment among Muslims. One of his famous works, The Call of the Marching Bell, showcased his poetic genius and philosophical depth. In it, he urges Muslims to rediscover their faith, identity, and purpose. As a philosopher, Iqbal is best known for his concept of khudi or selfhood. He believes that individuals should strive to develop their inner potential and self-awareness, which would lead to personal and collective growth. This idea becomes a cornerstone of his philosophy and a source of inspiration for those seeking self-empowerment. Iqbal's vision extends beyond the realm of personal development. He ardently championed the cause of an independent Muslim state in the subcontinent, anticipating the creation of Pakistan. His famous Allahabad address in 1930 articulated the need for a separate Muslim nation, and he became an influential figure in the Pakistan movement. Despite his deep involvement in politics and nation building, Iqbal's primary passion remained philosophy and literature. His poetry continues to reflect his evolving thoughts, encompassing themes of spirituality, humanism, and the search for meaning in a rapidly changing world. Allama Iqbal passed away on April 21, 1938, but his legacy endures. He is regarded as the national poet of Pakistan, and his poetry continues to inspire generations. His philosophical ideas continue to be studied and appreciated worldwide, and his contributions to the intellectual, cultural, and political spheres of South Asia are celebrated as a testament to the power of ideas and the enduring impact of visionary thinkers. Muhammad Iqbal's life and work remain an enduring source of inspiration for those who seek to bridge the gap between tradition and modernity while striving for individual and collective progress. Muhammad Iqbal's intellectual journey can be divided into three distinct phases, each marked by evolving philosophical ideas and themes. These phases represent the evolution of his thoughts and the development of his philosophical and ideological contributions. Early phase, traditional and Islamic revivalism from 1893 to 1805. In the early phase of his intellectual development, Iqbal was deeply influenced by traditional Islamic scholarship and Sufi mysticism. He studied classical Islamic philosophy, literature, and theology, drawing inspiration from the works of Persian poets like Rumi and Hafiz. During this period, he wrote poetry that celebrated the richness of Islamic heritage and advocated for a revival of Islamic spirituality and culture in the face of British colonialism. His collection of poems, Asrori Khudi, Secrets of the Self, marked the beginning of his exploration of the self as a fundamental concept in his thoughts. Middle phase, integration of Eastern and Western thoughts from 1905 to 1924. Iqbal's intellectual journey took a significant turn during his time in Europe, where he pursued higher education in philosophy, particularly in Western philosophical traditions. This exposure to Western thought, including the works of philosophers like Nietzsche and Henry Bergson, had a profound impact on his thinking. During this phase, Iqbal sought to bridge the gap between Eastern and Western philosophies, aiming to reconcile Islamic spirituality with modernity and individualism. His poetry from this period, including Bangetra and Brill, reflects this fusion of ideas. He introduced the concept of selfhood, emphasizing self-realization and self-awareness as essential for individual and collective progress. Iqbal also began advocating for the political and social empowerment of Muslims in British India during this phase, laying the groundwork for this latter political activism. Later phase political vision and Pakistan movement from 1924 to 1938. In the final phase of his life, Iqbal emerged as a prominent philosopher, statesman, and a key figure in the Pakistan movement. He actively engaged in political and social issues, advocating for the rights and self-determination of Muslims in the Indian subcontinent. Iqbal's Allahabad address in 1930, where he articulated the need for a separate Muslim state, is a pivotal moment in this phase. His philosophical ideas, particularly the concept of the ideal Muslim, played a central role in his vision for a future Muslim state. He argues that this state should be founded on the principles of justice, equality, and spiritual development of its citizens. Iqbal's poetry during this period resonated with the aspirations of Muslims for self-rule and inspired a sense of unity and purpose among his followers. These three phases of Iqbal's thoughts illustrate his transformation from a poet celebrating Islamic heritage and spirituality to philosopher-statesman advocating for the political and social empowerment of Muslims in the subcontinent. His ideas continue to influence both philosophical and political discourse, making him a revered figure in Pakistan's history and a source of inspiration for those seeking to navigate the complexities of identity, self-realization, and nation-building in a changing world. In this episode, we are going to discuss Iqbal's perspective on God as the ultimate reality and his relationship with the universe and human being. If you like this episode, please hit the like button and share it. You can also help me out monetarily, be it PayPal or Patreon. In his writings, Iqbal frequently criticizes pantheistic Sufism, which he believes is not rooted in Islamic teachings, but rather a later development influenced by Persian and Greek metaphysics. He argues that the emergence of pantheistic Sufism in Islam could be attributed to the intrinsic monistic tendencies found in the Persian worldview. In Islamic Sufism, the term pantheism is often associated with the notion of wahdatul wujud, the unity of being, as developed by Ibn Arabi. Iqbal's critique of pantheistic Sufism also targets this notion. In one of his letters, he expresses that, to the best of his knowledge, the book Fususul Hikam by Ibn Arabi contains nothing but atheism and innovation. This is because, according to Ibn Arabi, the sole existence is that of God and everything else is considered non-existent. Even if the latter is still referred to as existence, it is purely metaphorical, as all true existence belongs to God. Iqbal, in his mature thoughts, views God or the ultimate reality as an ego, which means he conceives of it as a conscious, self-aware being. It's important to note that the term ego in this context does not refer to individual human egos, but to a universal, all-encompassing ego. Quote, I have conceived the ultimate reality as an ego, and I must add now that from the ultimate ego, only egos proceed. The creative energy of the ultimate ego, in whom deed and thoughts are identical, functions as ego unities. The word in all its details, from the mechanical movement of what we call the atom of matter to the free movement of thoughts in the human ego, is the self-revelation of the great I Am. Every atom of divine energy, however low in the scale of existence, is an ego, but there are degrees in the expression of egohood. Throughout the entire gamut of being, runs the gradually rising note of egohood until it reaches its perfection in man. Iqbal's perspective suggests that everything in the universe, from the smallest particles of matter to the thoughts and consciousness of human beings, emanates from this ultimate ego. He believes that the creative energy of this ultimate ego is responsible for the existence of individual egos or consciousnesses. In other words, all forms of consciousness, from the simplest to the most complex, originate from this one ultimate ego. It's important to note that there are varying degrees of egohood or consciousness in the universe. While every entity, even the smallest particle of divine energy, possesses some degree of ego or self-awareness, there is a hierarchy or a scale of consciousness. Iqbal suggests that this hierarchy gradually ascends as you move up the scale of existence, culminating in the highest expression of egohood in human beings. According to Iqbal, God is the essence which is spiritual. In other words, God is not the ego, but the absolute ego. God is absolute and He encompasses everything, and there is nothing outside Him. Iqbal views in a balanced way that the mystical experiences about God do not dissolve the human ego, but in fact the human ego becomes more authentic. Iqbal's divine philosophy here actually strengthens the existence of the human ego so that his philosophical view is more panentheistic. The term panentheism first appeared as a philosophical and religious thought in 1828. It was first introduced by the German idealist philosopher Carl Friedrich Christian Krauss. Panentheism originates from the Greek word pan meaning all and meaning within and theos meaning God. Therefore, it means everything is within God or all in God. This term refers to a belief system that posits that the entire universe exists within God. Thus, panentheism positions God as a force that continuously exists within all creations and holds immense power over the universe. Krauss, influenced by Hegelian philosophy, used the term panentheism to reconcile the concepts of theism and pantheism. Panentheists believe that the reality of God is both transcendent and immanent. God exists beyond all creatures, yet everything remains within God. In panentheism, God and the universe are understood to be mutually interconnected. In other words, God has a reciprocal relationship with the universe. Ontologically, the universe exists within God, and God is present within the universe. This concept offers a new alternative to thought that is becoming increasingly popular through the synthesis of traditional theistic and pantheistic thinking. Traditional theistic thought emphasizes the ontological distinction between God and the universe, while panentheism emphasizes God's active presence in the universe. Meanwhile, pantheism emphasizes God's strict and complete presence in the universe, whereas panentheism maintains the identity and significance of the non-divine. Panentheism strives to avoid the idea of isolating God from the universe as understood in traditional theism and the idea of merging God with the universe totally as in pantheism. Iqbal's perspective holds that God engages in boundless and continuous creative acts, and in this context, humans are not mere passive puppets subject to God's will. Instead, they are active co-creators who actively participate in God's ongoing creative process. Iqbal likens God's creative process to something much more profound than the mundane act of making shoes. He believes that humans, as selected co-creators chosen by God, share in God's creative brilliance which they can manifest in the world. In simpler terms, humans are granted the freedom by God to actively take part in His creative endeavors. Essentially, every creative endeavor undertaken by humans represents their involvement in God's creative work. For Iqbal, the universe is not a finished and complete product, but rather in a process of continuous refinement. The creation of the universe is not a final creation. According to Iqbal, creation is an ongoing process, and humans actively participate in this process, continuously generating new situations and products. The universe as a collection of egos, according to Iqbal, serves as a vessel for desires to constantly bring about new changes in life. The universe is, in reality, always in a state of becoming. This is due to the ongoing activities of egos within the universe, making life within it an endless journey. The universe, as perceived by Iqbal, is not purely material entities occupying empty space. Instead, it consists of structures of events, systematic models of behavior that are organized. The universe represents the behavior of the divine self or absolute ego, much like character traits for the human ego. Imagine the universe as a never-ending work in progress, like an artist's masterpiece that's always evolving. According to Iqbal, it's not a finished product, but a continuous process of improvement. Think of creation as an ongoing story, and we humans are active participants in shaping this story. We are like co-authors, adding new chapters and characters to the narrative. The universe is not just a collection of lifeless stuff scattered in empty space. Instead, it's like a well-organized living structure where everything has a purpose and plays a role. For example, consider a garden. It's not a fixed, unchanging thing. Instead, it's always growing and changing. You plant seeds, nurture the plants, and they keep blooming and producing new flowers and fruit. In this way, the garden is in a constant state of becoming, just like Iqbal's idea of the universe. It's an ongoing process of growth and transformation, with you actively participating in it. So in Iqbal's view, the universe is like a dynamic, never-ending story where we are not just readers but also co-authors, shaping its future as it keeps evolving. Iqbal's perspective on the universe being in a state of continuous becoming and humans actively participating in this process is closely connected to his idea of God's panentheism. In Iqbal's view of panentheism, God is not a distant and passive creator, but rather an active and involved force within the universe. Just like how humans play a role in shaping the ongoing story of the universe, God, in the panentheistic sense, is intimately connected to every aspect of creation. God isn't just the ultimate author of the universe. He is actively present in every chapter and moment of its existence. So Iqbal's panentheism emphasizes the dynamic relationship between God and the universe. God is not separate from his creation. He is within it, actively participating in its continuous growth and transformation. Just as humans contribute to the ongoing process of the universe, they do so with a spark of the divine within them, reflecting God's creative energy. In essence, Iqbal's thoughts on the continuous becoming of the universe and his panentheistic view of God intertwine to depict a universe where God is both the ultimate author and an active co-author, and humans are co-creators and the ever-evolving story of creation. It is a perspective that highlights the profound connection between the divine and the world, where God's presence is not static but alive and dynamic within the ongoing narrative of the universe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.